Welcome back to another deep dive. Today, I want to start by asking you to do something for me.
Oh, exercise right off the bat. Okay.
Yeah, just, close your eyes for a second. I want you to picture success.
Right.
And I don't mean the grinding hustle culture startup founder version of success. I mean the finish line, the absolute end game. We are talking about Westport, Connecticut.
Ah, the Gold Coast.
Exactly.
It's a very specific flavor of the American dream, isn't it?
It really is. I want you to visualize it with me.
Yeah.
The lawns aren't just cut, they are manicured to within an inch of their lives.
Like green velvet.
Like velvet. And the yachts bobbing out in the Long Island Sound, they aren't for transport. They are basically floating living rooms.
Status symbols.
100%. It's the sort of place where the air just smells like sea salt, hydrangeas, and, well, old money.
Right. Formerly the home of Paul Newman.
Seemingly the home of the perfect life.
And that creates a really fascinating sociological dynamic. Places like Westport, they function as what we call high-trust environments.
High-trust environments. Okay, unpack that a little for us.
So you assume that if someone is living there, right,
Yeah.
if they're walking down Main Street, wearing the right boat shoes, driving the right car, they've been vetted. They belong.
Ah, I see.
The barrier to entry is financial, sure. But once you're in, people just completely let their guard down.
Which brings us to the central problem with high-trust environments. They are the absolute perfect hunting ground for predators.
Oh, absolutely.
Because nobody checks the ID of the person pouring the champagne at the charity fundraiser.
Precisely. If you look the part, you are the part.
And that facade of perfection, that glossy, totally impenetrable surface, is really the central character in the book we are unpacking today.
I am so ready for this.
We were diving deep into The Wife Stalker by Liv Constantine.
Such a wild ride.
It is. Now, if you are a fan of domestic thrillers, you might already know that Liv Constantine is actually a pen name.
Right, for two sisters, Lynn and Valerie Constantine.
Yep. And they have this incredible knack for writing about wealthy people behaving badly. But this book, The Wife Stalker,
It's different.
it's a bit of a structural unicorn.
It really is, because it pulls off this narrative bait and switch that is, well, it's incredibly difficult to execute without completely losing your audience.
Right, because it's essentially two nightmares packaged into one binding.
Exactly.
So our mission today is to break both of those nightmares down. On one side, we have narrative A.
The Piper Reynard story.
Yes, and this one is intimate, it's steamy, it is the classic other woman trope dialed all the way up to 11, a woman reinventing herself to target a married man.
And then, just when you think you have your footing, you get hit with narrative B.
Like a freight train.
Truly. And this is a much darker, almost gothic mystery. We're talking about a brutal murder of a beloved socialite.
A stalker who leaves dead animals as calling cards.
Right, and a family that is just being systematically torn apart by gaslighting.
And gaslighting is really the key word here. I mean, we use that term a lot in pop culture now.
Probably overuse it.
Yeah, usually just to mean like lying or being manipulative. But in The Wife Stalker, it is fully weaponized.
It's clinical.
Yes, we are going to see characters manipulating reality to control their victims, making them question their very sanity.
It's about the dismantling of the self. That's the thread that connects the two stories.
That's okay, I love that.
Because whether it's a mistress rewriting a husband's history or a stalker rewriting a victim's sense of safety, the root of it is all about control.
Well, I am fully ready to gossip about the sheer audacity of these characters today because let me tell you, the behavior in this book is jaw-dropping.
It's completely unhinged.
It is. But I know you're here to help us unpack the actual psychology behind it, the stalking, the breakdown of trust.
Absolutely. We need to look at why these characters do what they do. What actually drives a woman to erase her past and steal someone else's life?
And on the flip side, what happens to a human mind when it is just systematically terrorized over time?
Right.
So let's start with our first narrative strand, the arrival. Enter Piper Reynard.
Here she comes.
She rolls into Westport, and she isn't driving a sensible SUV or a minivan. She is behind the wheel of a vintage Alfa Romeo Spider.
Which is such a specific choice of vehicle.
Right.
It screams freedom, it screams style,
Hmm.
but it's also a little vintage, which suggests a highly curated personality.
Exactly. The text tells us she's fleeing a painful past in San Diego. She wants a fresh start.
A clean slate.
She wants to be near the water. But here's the thing that really stuck out to me right away. She says she wants to, quote, not stand out. She says she wants to heal.
But her actions don't match that at all.
Not even a little. What does she do? She buys a massive, sprawling, white clapboard house right on the water.
And joins the yacht club immediately.
Yes. It seems like a massive contradiction, doesn't it?
On the surface, yes.
If you want to hide, why go to the most visible place in town? Why join the literal social hub of the elite?
But this is actually a brilliant psychological tactic. It's an implementation of what we'd call camouflage through status.
Camouflage through status. Okay, unpack that for us.
Think about it. If Piper moved into a tiny, rundown apartment on the edge of town and just kept their head down, people would talk.
They'd ask questions.
Exactly. Who is she? Why is she alone? What does she actually do for a living?
Because mystery breeds curiosity in a small town.
Precisely. But by buying the big house and joining the club, she answers all those questions before they're even asked.
Wow.
Wealth is a shield in these communities. It signals, I am one of you. People don't interrogate the wealthy newcomer.
They try to impress her instead.
Right.
That is terrifyingly smart. She's just hiding in plain sight. And she doesn't just buy a house, she buys a whole new identity. She purchases a business called the Phoenix Recovery Center.
Which is a little on the nose.
The phoenix rising from the ashes. Just a bit. But notice the calculation in the rebrand. She changes the name to Harmony Healing Arts.
And there's a very specific reason for that.
Right. The text mentions she does this specifically to avoid using her real name on a counseling license.
Which is a massive red flag.
Huge. If you're a legitimate healer, why are you dodging the state licensing board?
Because she isn't positioning herself as a clinician. That's the key difference.
Okay, what do you mean?
A clinical therapist has ethical boundaries. They have oversight, a code of conduct, a board they report to. Piper doesn't want any of that.
So she's going for something else.
She's positioning herself as a guru, a master of mindfulness and healing.
I see.
In the wellness industry, the guru figure relies almost entirely on personality, charisma, and emotional connection.
Which makes it a lot easier to blur the lines.
It's a much easier position to manipulate someone from because the boundaries are inherently blurry to begin with.
She is preaching wellness while actively plotting destruction. It is the ultimate wolf in sheep's clothing.
It really is.
So she sets up shop, she's checking her social media stats obsessively, looking at likes and retweets like they are literal oxygen.
Highly narcissistic behavior.
Oh, totally. And then she sets her sights on her target, Leo Drakos.
Leo is the perfect mark for someone like Piper.
He really is. He's a high-profile defense attorney, charismatic, successful, well-known all over Westport. But crucially, he's vulnerable.
Very vulnerable.
Piper finds her in through a professional connection. Leo is representing a man named Fred Granger.
Right, Fred was a client at Piper Center.
Exactly, and now he's accused of murder.
It's the classic Trojan horse strategy.
Explain that.
She uses a completely legitimate reason, discussing a mutual client's welfare, to get into Leo's orbit. It lowers his defenses because it's business.
Right.
But once she's inside the gates, so to speak, she completely switches tactics.
Let's talk about the dynamic here, because the contrast is wild. You have Piper, who is all sleek perfection. She wears these champagne silk shirts, plays soothing Debussy music in her office, smells like expensive sandalwood.
She's curated to be an oasis.
Yes. And then you have the wife left behind, Joanna.
Joanna is the character that really breaks your heart in this segment of the story.
She really does.
She represents the stark reality of a long-term marriage versus the glossy fantasy of a new affair.
Joanna is so supportive, but she is just exhausted. The text describes Leo as having been deeply depressed for months. He's barely communicating.
He's checked out.
And Joanna's basically holding the entire family together by a single thread. They have 2 kids, Stelly and Evie.
There's this incredibly poignant scene where Joanna organizes a family trip to their summer house in Maine.
Oh, that scene is so tough to read.
She is trying so hard to heal the marriage.
Yeah.
She goes out of her way to buy the kids these specific toys for the trip bumper cars, for the boy, a karaoke mic for the girl.
She's doing all the heavy lifting, all the emotional labor.
Right, that detail really matters.
Yeah.
Because she isn't just being a mom in that moment, she is actively curating happiness.
She's trying to engineer a moment of joy for her family because her husband just can't do it right now.
And Leo, what is he doing?
He's just sitting on the deck staring out at the water.
He's physically present, but emotionally he is a million miles away.
And yet he actually thanks her. He acknowledges that she's been wonderful and supportive.
Which is what makes what happens next so incredibly painful.
Right.
It isn't that he hates Joanna, it's that he is completely numb. And Joanna, in her desperation to help him break out of this depression, actually hands him over to Piper.
The irony is just brutal. Joanna suggests that Leo attend a meditation workshop at Piper Center.
She thinks it'll help his focus for his big upcoming trial.
Right. Leo is super skeptical. He calls it mumbo jumbo. He really doesn't want to go. But he goes anyway, just to please Joanna.
And that is the wedge. That is the moment the door opens.
Joanna thinks she is sending him to a doctor, essentially. But she's sending him straight to a siren.
Let's break down that seduction scene at the workshop. Because Piper does not leave anything to chance.
Not a single thing. She dresses specifically to attract him. She wears that champagne silk shirt we mentioned earlier.
That's visual manipulation. But the psychological manipulation she uses is even more effective.
Okay, tell me about that.
So Leo is bored at this workshop, right?
He's checking his phone, completely tuned out.
He's mocking the instructor under his breath. The instructor who goes by the name Zodiac, by the way.
Which, to be fair, is a ridiculous name.
It is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But here's the genius of Piper's move. Instead of acting like the rigid guru who scolds him for not being mindful.
She joins in on the rebellion.
Exactly. She sympathizes with his boredom. She validates his cynicism.
She creates this us-against-them dynamic right there in the meditation room.
It's an instant bond. And what do?
They skip the rest of the session to go grab lunch at a place called the Spotted Horse.
That's the classic meet cute, twisted for a thriller. They bond over being too smart and too cool for the very meditation they paid to attend.
And at lunch, Piper plays her role flawlessly. The great listener.
Oh, she's a pro.
She notices his wedding ring right away. It is right there on his hand. She knows he's married.
But she doesn't care.
She's actually fantasizing about his hands while he's sitting there talking about his, quote, rough patch.
She's positioning herself as the refuge. Think about it. Joanna represents the work of the marriage. The kids, the depression, the shared history, the heavy lifting.
And Piper is the escape.
Yes. She tells him, I'm a great listener. If you ever need someone to talk to, I'm just a phone call away.
She's offering him intimacy with zero responsibility.
And for a man who is deep in a depressive state, that is an incredibly powerful drug.
It's the start of the end for Joanna. But now I really want to shift gears.
Let's do it.
Because while Piper is busy sinking her claws into Leo, there's a whole other nightmare unfolding in this book.
The second narrative strand.
Yes. And honestly, this is where things go from a tense domestic drama straight into a horror movie.
This is the Kate English mystery. And you can feel the tone shift dramatically right from the start. We are dealing with a brutal murder here.
Lily Michaels. She is this beloved, wealthy, elegant socialite, and she has been found dead at the bottom of her stairs.
It's framed to look like a home invasion gone wrong.
Right. It's staged to look like a robbery. There's a broken window, a missing diamond bracelet, but something just feels entirely off about the whole scene.
And her daughter, Kate English, is left to pick up the pieces.
Let's talk about Kate, because she is a fascinating character to analyze.
She really is. She's a doctor. She's a very wealthy woman in her own right, but emotionally, she is incredibly fragile.
She's grieving her mother's sudden death, obviously, but she's also dealing with some serious past trauma.
Right, the car accident from years ago?
Where her fiancé, Jake, died, and she carries a massive amount of survivor's guilt over that.
So she's already on shaky ground psychologically when the story begins.
And right into this incredibly tense mix comes Blair Barrington.
Ah, Blair.
Blair is Kate's estranged best friend from childhood. She is now this very famous, very successful mystery author living in New York City.
She's tough. She's cynical.
She basically hates everyone on the planet except for Kate.
Blair steps right into the protector archetype. But she's also functioning as the suspicious investigator for the reader.
She arrives in town for the funeral and immediately starts side-eyeing absolutely everyone.
Especially Kate's husband, Simon.
Oh, Simon. We definitely have to talk about Simon.
He's quite the character.
He's an architect. Handsome, charming, smooth. But Kate and Simon were actually separated before Lily's murder.
Yes, that's a crucial detail.
He's moved back into the big house for safety now that the killer is out there. But the tension between them is so thick you could cut it with a knife.
And Blair picks up on that tension immediately.
She doesn't trust him for a second.
She doesn't see a grieving son-in-law. She sees an opportunist.
Right. She knows his architecture business is struggling financially. She suspects he's only hovering around for the inheritance.
And then the stalking begins.
And this isn't just someone casually following Kate around town. This is calculated psychological terror.
It starts small, but it escalates so quickly.
It starts with texts from a private caller, but then here, the dead animals.
So that scene is visible.
A box gets delivered to the house. Kate opens it. Inside, there are 3 dead parakeets. They have been spray painted black, and they are pierced right through by a skewer.
That is extremely specific and intensely gruesome imagery.
It's horrifying.
It is entirely designed to shock and repulse her. But the really key detail there is the nursery rhymes.
Right. The killer sends messages referencing twisted versions of classic nursery rhymes. For the painted birds, it's sing a song of sixpence.
4 and 20 blackbirds baked in a pie.
It is so chilling. And the tech savviness of this stalker is just next level.
They're leaving almost no digital footprint.
None. They are using a VPN to constantly mask their location. When the police try to trace the IPs, it always bounces back to public Wi-Fi spots.
Like a random Starbucks.
Exactly. So they can never actually pinpoint who is sending the threats.
This creates a feeling of absolute omnipresence.
Yes, the stalker could be anyone, anywhere, at any time.
And they are watching Kate's every single move.
There's that one text. It gave me actual chills. The stalker comments on her outfit.
The Yale sweatshirt.
Yes. Kate is wearing an old Yale sweatshirt inside her own home. And the text says something like, "Isn't it time to retire that old Yale sweatshirt? You're turning into quite the slob."
Imagine getting that text.
While you are sitting alone on your couch, the doors are deadbolted, the high-tech security system is armed.
It completely violates the sanctity of the home. It's a message that says, your walls cannot protect you from me.
And that is the ultimate goal of this kind of stalking.
Yeah, absolutely. The goal is to destroy the target's sense of safety and eventually their grasp on reality itself.
Which leads us directly into the gaslighting campaign against Kate.
And it is relentless.
It really is. Let's talk about the incident with the email.
The audio file.
Right. So Kate receives an email from private caller. She clicks it, and it's an audio file. It plays a distorted, creepy version of Pop Goes the Weasel.
But the lyrics are changed.
Yes, instead of the normal lyrics, this distorted voice sings, "Dead is the doctor."
It's horrifying.
But here is the real kicker. As soon as she finishes listening to it, the email deletes itself.
Poof. Gone entirely.
When she tries to show Blair or the police, there is literally no record of it ever existing.
This is textbook gaslighting. It is designed to make Kate look hysterical to the people around her.
It makes her look like she's hallucinating or just making things up for attention.
It isolates her completely. Because even the people who actively want to believe her, like Blair or Detective Anderson, they have to rely solely on her word against a total lack of hard evidence.
And then there's the book incident. This one made me so angry.
Targeting the child.
Yes. Kate's daughter, Annabelle, who is just a little girl, is opening a pile of Christmas presents. She unwraps what's supposed to be a toy.
And instead, it's a true crime book.
Titled, "Watch Mommy Die."
Placing that specifically in the hands of a child is a brutal, brutal tactic.
It's crossing every conceivable line.
It threatens the next generation. It tells Kate, not only can I get to you, but I can bypass your security and get right to your daughter too.
And let's not forget the physical danger. It escalates from mind games to actual physical threats.
The coffee.
Simon brings Kate a cup of coffee one morning. She takes a sip and immediately spits it out. She says it tastes funny.
And then later, the police find rat poison hidden in the house.
This casts a massive, incredibly dark shadow of suspicion right onto Simon.
He prepared the coffee. He handed it to her. He has unrestricted access to the house.
And this is where we really have to look at the suspect list, because the book gives us plenty of viable options.
A lot of red herrings to sort through.
Number 1 with a bullet is obviously Simon English. We already know his architecture firm is failing. He desperately needs money.
And Kate's personal wealth is tied up in a trust or foundation.
Right. But Lily's death, that might free up some serious inheritance money for Kate, and by extension, Simon.
Plus, he has a motive to want Kate out of the picture entirely.
Right. The work wife, Sabrina Mitchell.
She is completely obsessed with him.
The other woman dynamic reappears here in narrative B2. Sabrina is actively hostile toward Kate.
She is going out of her way to feed damaging information to the police. She's telling them all about Kate's past trauma, the accident with Jake, trying to paint her as mentally unstable.
It really looks like Simon and Sabrina are conspiring to get rid of Kate and take the money.
It's a very compelling theory.
But we also have Gordon Barton on the board.
Oh, girl.
He's the family's financial manager. And Blair, being the aggressive amateur detective that she is, actually breaks into his house.
Which is a felony, by the way.
Totally illegal. But as readers, we kind of love her for it.
She breaks in and finds a literal shrine.
A hidden folder on his computer labeled My Katie. And it is full of hundreds of candid, zoomed-in photos of Kate walking, eating, just living her life unaware.
It is wildly creepy behavior.
What's his excuse when he gets caught?
He claims it's an art project.
Oh, come on.
He says it's a photography study called Urban Mundane.
Which is the worst defense I have ever heard. Urban Mundane. It's just stalking with a pretentious, artsy title.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
But in the context of the mystery, it serves as a perfect red herring.
Right. Gordon is obsessed, yes. He is a stalker in his own right. But is he a killer?
The police investigate him and eventually clear him of Lily's murder, but his presence really muddies the water for a while.
And then there's Georgina Hathaway. She was Lily's absolute best friend.
She acts supportive, she's always around grieving, but she has these moments where she is just a little off.
Very strange reactions to things.
And finally, the suspicion eventually falls on Blair herself.
Kate's own best friend. Her protector.
Kate starts to doubt her, and she has good reason to.
Why? What gives it away?
Because of the nursery rhymes used by the stalker. They perfectly mirror a short story that Blair wrote years and years ago.
Sing a song of sixpence. Pop goes the weasel.
It's an incredibly specific detail. Who else would know that obscure early story of Blair's so intimately?
The tension just builds and builds until we finally get to the unraveling. Detective Anderson is investigating officially, but Blair and Kate are basically doing their own reckless sleuthing.
And then Kate makes the ultimate discovery.
She finds Blair's hidden journal.
And in it, Blair has written in explicit detail about her deep-seated hatred for Kate and a meticulous plan for revenge.
This is the moment where the floor completely drops out for Kate. Everything she thought she knew is a lie.
She confronts Blair.
And Blair confesses. She looks her in the eye and admits to stalking Kate. She admits to sending the dead mice, the terrifying text messages, sending the fake bracelet to make it look like the one stolen from her mother.
But wait, let's pause there for a second.
Okay.
Blair admits to the stalking. She admits to psychologically terrorizing Kate. But she flatly denies killing Lily.
It is a really crucial distinction in the plot.
Blair claims her entire motive was to actually save Kate.
Save her by sending her dead birds.
In Blair's twisted logic, yes, she genuinely believed Simon killed Lily. So she staged this elaborate, terrifying haunting to force Kate to see that Simon was dangerous. To frame him, essentially.
To get him out of Kate's life before he killed her too, that is a deeply twisted form of love. I'm going to mentally torture you to the brink of insanity so you realize your husband is bad news.
But then comes the even bigger reveal. The secret that ties everything together.
Blair isn't just an estranged childhood friend.
No. She reveals that she is actually Kate's half-sister.
This is the absolute bombshell of the book. Lily, the seemingly perfect, elegant mother, had a secret affair years ago and gave a baby up for adoption.
And that baby was Blair.
Blair grew up feeling entirely abandoned, watching from the outside as Kate got to live the perfect, privileged life that Blair felt was rightfully hers.
This completely explains the deep-seated resentment we've been seeing.
It does.
Blair felt replaced. She felt that Kate stole her mother's love and her rightful place in the world. So when she finally came back into Kate's life, it was this volatile mix of desperately wanting to reconnect with family and intensely wanting to punish Kate for having it so easy.
It's a classic, tragic Cain and Abel dynamic. So the confrontation escalates in the house. Blair completely loses her grip on reality. She grabs a fire poker and threatens Kate.
She sets the house on fire.
She leaves Kate there to die, genuinely believing she is saving the family legacy by removing Kate from the equation. She blames Kate for all of her own life's tragedies.
It is a full-blown psychotic break. In Blair's fractured mind, Kate is the literal source of all her pain. The loss of the mother, the loss of her own pregnancy years ago. Eliminating Kate is the only way she thinks she can heal the wound.
But then at the very last second, as the house is burning down, Blair turns back.
She pulls Kate from the fire.
She saves her sister's life.
It's a sudden moment of clarity, or perhaps just the enduring primal bond of sisterhood finally overriding the madness. She saves her, but the psychological damage is permanently done.
So Blair was the stalker. The mystery of the dead birds and the texts is solved, but she swears on her life she didn't kill Lily.
Right.
And Simon, it turns out he was a massive jerk and an emotional cheater, sure. He was definitely flirting with Sabrina, but he didn't kill Lily either.
So we are still left with the body at the bottom of the stairs. Who actually killed Lily Michaels?
The truth comes out from the most unlikely source imaginable. The driver.
Randolph.
Yes, Randolph's. He drives for Georgina Hathaway, Lily's best friend. He finally cracks under police questioning.
He admits he drove Georgina to Lily's house on the exact night of the murder.
He lied initially to protect his boss, but the guilt just eats away at him until he can't hold it in anymore.
So Georgina Hathaway, the loyal, grieving best friend, is the killer.
But why? What could possibly be the motive?
It all goes back to the secret of Blair's parentage.
The affair.
Exactly. Lily had confessed everything to Georgina that night. She told her about the affair she had 40 years ago, and crucially, she revealed the identity of the secret child's father.
The father of the baby was Bishop Hathaway.
Georgina's husband.
Oh my God. That is the betrayal that finally snapped Georgina's sanity. Her absolute best friend in the world had slept with her husband and secretly had his child.
In a blind rage over the betrayal, Georgina shoved Lily. Lily fell down the stairs, hit her head, and died instantly.
And Georgina, in an absolute panic, realizes what she's done and stages the robbery to cover her tracks.
She stole a diamond bracelet, grabbed something to smash the window, and just walked away into the night.
It wasn't a cold-blooded, premeditated assassination at all. It was a crime of passion, followed by a cover-up born of sheer panic.
It is deeply tragic. A 40-year-old secret ends up destroying 2 entire families in one single night.
So Georgina confesses to the police and is arrested, but we still have some major loose ends to tie up as the book closes.
Right. What happens to Simon and Kate?
Well, Simon is fully exonerated. The rat poison in the house, that was likely planted by Blair to frame him. The gaslighting texts sent by Blair.
Simon admits he truly loved Kate, but he felt he could never compete with the ghost of her dead fiancé, Jake.
That is such a heavy dynamic for a marriage. And Kate realizes she had been holding Simon at arm's length for years because of her own unresolved guilt over the car accident.
They actually reconcile in the end. Simon fires Sabrina, thank goodness, and they decide to try and rebuild their marriage.
But the most haunting resolution definitely belongs to Blair.
Without a doubt.
After the fire, after the grand confession, she suffers a complete, irreversible psychotic break. She is institutionalized.
The description of her in the mental health facility is absolutely chilling.
She fully believes she is a famous movie star preparing for a red carpet premiere. She thinks the nurses checking on her are her personal assistants.
She thinks her daily medication is just pills for opening night jitters.
It's so sad. She has retreated entirely into a fantasy world where she is successful, adored by the public, and most importantly, safe.
It's the ultimate psychological defense mechanism. The reality of what she actually did, terrorizing her own sister, almost burning her alive, is just too horrifying for her mind to process. So her brain just rewrites reality.
And there's a really tragic irony sprinkled in at the end. Enid, Blair's stepmother, who she viciously hated growing up, comes to visit her in the facility.
And we learn that Enid actually tried very hard to care for Blair when she was young.
But Blair's burgeoning mental illness completely twisted her perception of reality, even back then.
It really forces the reader to retroactively question everything we saw through Blair's perspective.
Was Enid really the wicked, abusive stepmother she described? Or was that just Blair's paranoid narrative?
We'll never really know for sure.
The book finally ends with Kate reading a hidden letter from her mother, Lily. It confirms everything. Blair was indeed her sister.
She was a child born of a terrible mistake, but a child Lily secretly loved from afar her entire life.
It's a heartbreaking note to end on, honestly. A mother's love that could never be openly expressed, which ultimately led to this massive cascade of destruction.
So when we pull back and look at the Wife Stalker as a whole, what are the big takeaways from these 2 intertwined stories?
I think the biggest theme by far is the facade of perfection. Whether it's Piper in the first story trying to build this flawlessly curated perfect life in Westport, or the Michaels family in the second story, hiding illegitimate children and affairs behind their wealth.
Wealth and status just mask incredibly deep dysfunction. It doesn't cure it, just puts a very expensive Band-Aid over it.
And gaslighting, of course. We saw it executed in 2 very different forms.
Piper gaslighting Leo into thinking his supportive wife didn't understand him at all.
And Blair gaslighting Kate into thinking she was literally losing her mind.
It shows how incredibly fragile our grip on reality can be when someone we deeply trust decides to systematically manipulate it.
It also plays heavily with the trope of the crazy woman, doesn't it?
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
Kate is constantly told she's crazy or hysterical, but she's actually right Someone is watching her every move.
While Blair is universally thought to be the same successful, put-together author, but she is the one who is truly, deeply delusional.
It completely flips the script on who we should trust. It really challenges the reader to look beyond the superficial surface level of sanity and success.
Exactly. It forces you to confront your own biases about who looks safe and who looks dangerous.
Because the most dangerous person is often the one pouring you coffee in your own kitchen.
I want to leave you all with a final thought to mull over. We spent a lot of time today talking about how the stalker used technology against Kate.
The VPNs, the self-deleting emails, hacking into the home network.
Right. In this age of digital stalking and private callers, how much of our own security is just an illusion?
That's a scary thought.
We meticulously lock our front doors at night, but we carry active tracking devices in our pockets everywhere we go. We bring smart speakers into our bedrooms.
We invite the watchers in?
Exactly. Who do we actually trust to tell us what is real?
That is the terrifying question. We rely so heavily on our digital devices, our partners, and our community to reflect reality back to us.
And when those reflections are intentionally distorted.
We are all just as vulnerable as Kate English.
That is it for this deep dive into the twisted world of Liv Constantine. Check the Wife Stalker out if you want to sleep with all the lights on tonight. We will see you next time.